term. We ask for an aye vote.
Any other discussion on 1012? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1012. All those.
Sorry.
Senator Heisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I heard this in committee, and I don't recall if I was a yes vote or a no vote, but either way, I told them it was for that day only. I was actually kind of pleased to see this bill come forward because I've been telling people for years that not every forest is a healthy forest. Just because there are trees out there doesn't mean it's doing its job. And especially about the time I would get to the point where I'd say, and most old growth forests are not cleaning the air like we think they should be, because there's just something sacred about old growth forest. Well, they're a dying forest is what they are. If you get high enough up so you can look down on them, which I've hiked in those areas and logged in those areas actually, the tops are dead. They're no longer a vibrant forest. I'm not sure we need this study. However, there's nothing wrong with having more good data, and for the price of the study, I think I've decided in the last day or two that I'm going to go ahead and support this study. I think probably any good forester, you could take him to your plot of property in the forest, and he could probably tell you if this is a good, healthy forest and what needs to be done to it. But if somehow we can get that information all compiled in one place, it will probably be a good thing. So I will be voting aye on it. You cast your own vote.
Motion is the adoption of House Bill 1012. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it and 1012 is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1358?
House Bill 1358, Representative Sirota, Senator Winter, and Fields, concerning measures to eliminate the presence of lead in the drinking water of certain facilities where children are present and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senatorial 5 has been requested and granted. All right. Again, we're hearing House Bill 1358. And who would like to begin? Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move 1358 and the Appropriations Committee report.
To the Appropriations Committee report, Senator Winter.
In the Appropriations Committee, we changed some dates and we added in that as the program continues on, should there be available funds, we will also add in middle schools. And I encourage you yes vote on the Appropriations Committee report.
Motion is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it and the Appropriations Committee report is adopted. There's an amendment of the desk. Would the clerk please read L15?
Amendment L01.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L015.
To L015, Senator Winter.
L015 changes some dates. We just miscalculated some of the dates for reporting on the fund left that can be used for middle schools because basically what happens is you test, you remediate, and then you have 90 days to test again and then report back. And so we just needed more time to make sure that all happened easily. And I encourage yes vote on L015.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the adoption of L15. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. L15 is adopted. To the bill, Senator
Fields.
Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm really excited to present this bill 1358 because it addresses a very specific, important issue, and that is the water that's in our schools. And we know that if lead is in the water, it can have a negative effect on the development of a child's mind and their brain. So what this bill does, it gives us an opportunity to test water that is currently in our schools and making sure that we're taking action to prevent lead in water. So members, I urge an aye vote on 1358 because lead exposure as it relates to our teachers, our staff, daycare centers just cannot be tolerated. We need to do something, and the best way to approach it is by testing the content of water.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to explain how this bill has changed since introduction. Because at introduction, there was a lot of concerns from our school districts, from folks like Case and Casby. And so what we did was sit down with them and worked really hard to a solution where our K-12 interests are all neutral or in support. And basically what we are doing is we are testing every child care center and preschool and every elementary school. We did have a voluntary testing program at CDPHE. Unfortunately, not a whole lot of schools utilized that program, but the results that came back is that about 20% of the water in our schools did contain lead that were over the safe amounts. And so what we're doing with this one-time money is spending money to first test, and so test all elementary schools, child care centers, preschools. Home care centers do get the free testing, but they can opt out if they want, so our home care centers are also neutral. Once they test and report back to CDPHE, should there be more than 5 parts per billion of lead, which is dangerous and harming our children's brains and health, then we pay for remediation. So we pay for that remediation. It might be a new fixture, it might be a filter. We remediate the lead that's in the water and then test one more time to make sure that remediation's working. So we have everyone in support or neutral on this bill. This is a good way to make sure we're testing, we're keeping our children safe from lead, and I encourage yes vote.
Senator Heisey.
Don't go too far. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a question. By the way, I appreciate the sponsors working on this bill. When we first heard it in committee, it was not a testing bill. It was a you shall put on a filter. And somehow it just made sense to figure out whether you need one or not first. So thank you for doing that. But I'm curious, who's paying for the testing?
Senator Winter.
The state of Colorado.
Senator Heisey.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I am a little surprised at what you cited, that 20% of wherever they'd been testing had lead in the water in today's society, given the plumbing that we have and the fact that lead has been outlawed in pipes for many, many years. But I do appreciate the fact that we are focusing on the children, because lead, like PFAS, is one of those substances that builds up in your body over time. So yeah, thank you for changing the bill.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the adoption. Senator Lundeen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the changes that this bill has gone through as presented. It would have been onerous and I believe a significant misdirection of dollars that should be going to public education instead of into filters. This was a filters in all schools bill as originally proposed. It's in the last short while, in the last few hours, become a much more manageable testing bill. But it's still, even as a testing bill, it is $20 million worth of money that you could argue may or may not be absolutely necessary. Reached out to CDPHE to ask what their perspective was on drinking water in the schools and in Colorado, and their response broadly is, we believe drinking water in Colorado is the healthiest it's been in the state's history. So I would agree. I think we're in a good spot. Down to the numbers that we're dealing with, and this is where it really becomes challenging. Of the tested school buildings, of the work that's been done under HB 17306, how does that? That must have been SB 17306. Anyway, the email says HB. It must be a Senate Bill 306 from 2017. 84% of the tests returned less than 5 parts per billion. Another 9% are 5 to 10 parts per billion, and then another 3%, 15 parts per billion. So basically what you've got is you've got 98% is below what EPA calls their action level. So the reality is we're spending a significant amount of money, and we don't want students drinking excessive amounts of lead, a harmful level of lead. There's, of course, minerals in all the water we drink. And the testing element of this makes sense. The question, the reason I'm standing here right now is we're always fighting for money for education, for proper use of resources for the children's education. This is actually a public health bill. It's not an education bill, but I'm wondering if we couldn't find a better use of this money on behalf of the children in public education. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the adoption of 1358. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. 1358 is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion for the committee is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee will rise and report. I know, man. I'm getting old, man. I'm getting up there, bruh. Oh no. I should say I'm just tired. Better. Yeah, I'm feeling it.
Did you say I know? That's so powerful.
The Senate will come to order. Will the clerk please add Senator Smallwood to the roll? Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills in consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1012 is amended. House Bill 1358 is amended, passed on second reading, and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1400 laid over until later in the evening and retaining its place on the calendar.
Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
The motion is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent to excuse, the committee of the whole report is adopted. House Bill 1012 is amended. House Bill 1358 is amended, passed on second reading in order revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1400 laid over until May 6th and retaining its place on the calendar. Committee reports.
May 6, 2022, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 239, Senate Bill 239 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1004 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1115 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1119 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1122 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1131 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1205 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, and with the recommendation that be placed on the consent calendar. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1221 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1242 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1254 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1259 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1315 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1323 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1345 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1346 be amended as follows, and as so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1355 be amended as follows, and as so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1362 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1370 be amended as follows, and as so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1377 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1385 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1392 be amended as follows, and as so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1406 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, and with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. May 6, 2022, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1416 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, and with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar.
The Senate will stand in a senatorial 5.
person you're looking for, you can't find.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate take up House Bill 1205, 1406, and 1416 on special orders at the special orders second reading consent calendar at the hour of 9:27 p.m.
The motion is that the Senate take up House Bills 1205, 1406, 1416 on special orders consent at the hour of 9:27 p.m. All those in favor say aye.
Hey!
All those opposed, no.
No.
The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The Senate will take up House Bills 1205, 1406, and 1416 on special orders consent at the hour of 9:27 p.m. Special orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of special order second reading of bills consent calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted, and the Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of the special order second reading of bills consent calendar, and Senator Coleman will take the chair.
The committee will come to order and the court rules relax. Will the clerk please read the title of all the bills on the special order second reading of the bills consent calendar?
House Bill 1205, Representatives Kennedy and Weissman, Senators Hansen and Coleman, concerning the creation of an income tax credit to help income-qualified seniors afford housing and in connection therewith making an appropriation. House Bill 1406, Representative Harrod and Roberts, Senators Coleman and Hendrickson, concerning a temporary deduction from state net taxable sales for certain retailers in the state and in connection therewith making an appropriation. House Bill 1416, Representatives Esgar and Neville, Senators Colker and Rankin, concerning procedural requirements for the administration of property tax and in connection therewith requiring the property tax administrator to maintain a list of persons interested in receiving notifications about possible amendments to property tax manuals, requiring public hearings with notice in connection with the amendments to property tax manuals, requiring petitions for changes to property tax materials to be in writing, requiring notifications about the opportunity to obtain additional information about the valuation of commercial property, requiring notification about the abatement process, allowing for the correction of errors impacting valuation of a class or subclass of property, establishing a process for accelerated consideration of certain appeals and making an appropriation.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the passage of all the bills on the special orders second reading of bills consent calendar, which includes House Bill 1205, 1406, and 1416.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills on the consent calendar? The motion for the body is adoption of all the bills on special order second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bills are adopted. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The committee will rise and report.
There's a time and place. This is not the right time.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has had a number of bills in consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1205, House Bill 1406, House Bill 1416 passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
The motion is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 2 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. House Bill 1205, House Bill 1406, House Bill 1416 passed on second reading in order to revise and place on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate take up Senate Bill 239, House Bill 1, and House Bills 1004, 1115, 1119, 1122, 1131, 1221, 1242, 1254, 1315, 1323, 1345, 1346, 1362, 1370, 1377, 1385, 1392, 1259, 1400, and 1355 on special orders at the hour of 9:32 p.m.
The motion is that the Senate take up all of the bills listed on your special order second reading of bills calendar on special orders at the hour of 9:32 p.m. All those in favor say aye.
Hey.
Opposed, no.
Maybe.
The ayes have it, and that motion is adopted. The Senate will take up those bills on special orders at the hour of 9:32 p.m. Special orders, second reading of bills. Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself as a committee to hold for consideration of special orders, second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted, and the Senate will resolve itself into the committee of the whole for the consideration of the special orders, second reading of bills, and Senator Coleman will take the chair.
Committee will come to order and the court rules relax for everybody up in here. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 239?
Senate Bill 239, Senators Moreno and Simpson, Representatives Esgar and McKean, concerning buildings in the Capitol complex and in connection therewith funding certain capital construction projects for state-owned buildings.
Senator Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 239 and the appropriations report.
To the Appropriations Committee report. Senator Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the appropriations report, we had to adjust a couple of dates to align with the petition clause and also the reporting date to the CDC.
The motion is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Appropriations Committee report is adopted. To the bill. Senator Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a bill about Capitol complex upgrades. Much needed upgrades. The time is right, given some of the lessons learned around some of the changes in our workforce and an abundance of really excess office space lease that we're committed to. And the time is right to invest in some upgrades in facilities around the Capitol, and it will start with the Capitol Annex building across the street, then the Centennial building, and then the building on 1370 Grant Street. This is kind of the first step to get the process kicked off and kind of a different approach in financing it. So happy to have those discussions. That's a little bit about the bill.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good bill vote, yes.
The motion is the passage of Senate Bill 239. All those in favor say aye. Oh. Senator. The motion is the adoption of Senate Bill 239. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 239 is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1004?
House Bill 1004, Representatives Ortiz and Young, Senators Fields and Coker, concerning a transfer from the general fund to the licensing services cash fund.
Senator Fields.
Mr. Chair, we move House Bill 1004 on second reading and urge for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the adoption of 1004. Senator Gardner.
Thank you. We heard this bill in appropriations, and we're transferring money from the general fund to the licensing services cash fund to keep the level of driver's license fees down, as I understand it. But it wasn't clear in the fiscal note or in the canary sheets how much difference we were going to make for a licensed driver for renewal in Colorado. And I'm wondering if the sponsor or anyone knows how much money are we going to be saving and how many people do we expect to have coming up for renewal this year so that we would have money. And I'm wondering.
Senator Gardner.
And if there's not an answer to that, I guess I will just keep wondering and opining on that situation, because it did seem to me that we were really struggling about it. Were we getting any money for citizens, or is it just sort of window dressing, as they say?
Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to respond to the good senator's question in reference to the summary as it relates to the appropriation, is $3.9 million. That would be a fund as it relates to the licensing services fund to support those who need some support as it relates to getting their driver's license renewed.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, and I appreciate the response from the good senator from Aurora. It was puzzling to me that there was nowhere on the fiscal note that it said, well, we're gonna be lowering driver's license fees for these citizens by $1 or $5 or $10. And I'm just wondering if anyone might have any further information about that.
Senator Rankin.
Mr. Chairman, I don't really have any exact information about that, but it raises an interesting question. When we lower or delay these fees, what are we really doing? Now, let's go back to Tabor refunds. We're taking great liberties this year with how we use the monies that would otherwise be distributed to citizens in their income tax next year. And this is one of those. Whatever we do to reduce driver's license fees will reduce the Tabor refunds to citizens next year in their tax returns. So I premise that we should be very careful. I mean, it should be something very visible and very helpful to the recipients. So are a few bucks on your driver's license fee visible to you? Are they very helpful for you? Do they help you get through life? Should we have this policy of using Tabor refund money sort of at will to do things like this? I question that. I don't really question that in some cases we need fee relief and property tax relief, which I'm part of a bill to do that. But to use Tabor refunds sort of to fill up things like driver's license fees, it gives me pause.
Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious that, I have not renewed my driver's license in a long time. I have a current driver's license, but it's been so long since I last paid the fee. I don't remember whether it's $10 or $25 or whatever. So that's one question. And then another question, at what period of time do you have to go in and take either a new driver's test? Do I have to take a driver's test now? I don't remember. I guess it's getting up there in years, if I have to take another driver's test or not. And then the other thing I'm wondering about, do I have to take the written exam also? Because I just don't remember what I did. At one time too, maybe the sponsor would know, driver's licenses could last for a period of 10 years. And now I don't know if it's still 10 years or 5 years, or maybe it's, I don't know. So could the sponsor please answer those questions for me, please?
Senator Wilbert.
To the good senator from Colorado Springs, I did have my driver's license reviewed recently, and let me tell you, it was not the most pleasant experience. I can't imagine a worse operated system than showing up in person to get your driver's license replaced. So for me, you know, here we work at the Capitol, pretty long hours, Monday through Friday, or most of us do. You know, as far as getting into the driver's license, things have changed over the last couple of years. You can't really even get into the driver's license office when you want to. I mean, I remember the day when you could just stop in, get in line, and things would happen. Nowadays, we have to make an appointment. When I showed up at the appointment, there were all kinds of interesting rules that the state had put in place, even though the county and the local health department had lifted and changed all the rules. That particular office decided to put upon itself all kinds of different rules. So we were, when I walked in, it was, I was met with a lady who had her mask down well below her nose. As a matter of fact, I have a picture of her, well down below her nose and face, just barely over her lips, and she immediately saw me and the young woman behind me that had come in without a mask because masks were no longer required at the time. And of course, the rule at her office was you had to have a mask on. So I actually showed her the picture of herself with her mask not even on and not doing a thing. So that's just the first couple of minutes of the effort. So once I got in, you know, to replace my driver's license, because you have to do that every, I think it's 10 years or so nowadays. So I think it's 10 years. Maybe the sponsors will come up and answer that. So took my place in line, and my driver's license was a little chewed up at the time. One of the corners had broken off. I'm not sure exactly why the corner had broken off, but you know, sometimes things happen. You carry your license in your pocket, and you know, you sit down and your driver's license can break and that kind of thing. So, you know, I wish that they'd make these driver's licenses a little more sturdy. I mean, my credit cards last. You can get a credit card that is now made of platinum, some of gold and other things, I guess. I don't really know, but steel, I guess. And you know, if we took the time to produce those credit card driver's licenses that were, you know, as nearly as high a quality as what we're looking at here, we wouldn't have to replace my credit card. The only reason it needed to be replaced is because the corner broke off and they couldn't see my signature anymore. So anyway, that created quite a problem, something the driver's license folks had not seen before. So as I'm waiting in line and kind of watch the process and you know, the confusion of folks in replacing their driver's license. So, did you know that when you go in for your driver's license, you have to come with a certification from your optometrist? It can't be a dental therapist. It can't be an ophthalmologist. It can't be any of those. It has to be an optometrist, and that's the only certification that they'll allow. And that certification really has to be a test of your eyes within the last 6 months. So if you're at 6 months and a day, they don't accept your certificate, like a proof that your eyes are good, even if they don't let you sit there and take a test anymore. So whether you have a test, but if you have a test that's 6 months minus a day, then all of a sudden you can get your test. So I've got a lot. That was a long process. I was there for probably 2 hours getting my driver's license, and I've only talked about the first couple of minutes of just really walking into the door. I need to get a drink of water, and I know that you had some other questions, and I hope that I answered at least one of your questions. I'll be back because I've got to tell you this story about driver's license, because I think the question ultimately to this bill is does it make sense for the state of Colorado to take our general fund money and apply it and give it away to the driver's license bureau? Should we be doing that? Shouldn't they run more efficiently? Shouldn't we bring a private company, perhaps, do a public-private partnership and make driver's license bureaus introduce some private free market concepts into their system? Because we all know the joke that there's nothing worse about, when they look at what is the worst way to run a government office, everyone points to a driver's license bureau or the post office. Those are two perfect examples of the worst way to run things that citizens need. And I'd ask, I'm going to grab a copy of the bill, and I think that you might find a couple of the answers if the sponsors don't come up, but I found a copy of the bill. It looks like it was introduced and the fiscal note was written quite a while ago. I need to go take a look at that fiscal note because I'm worried that the fiscal note dates all the way back to January 25th, and I think that that may be a little outdated. There may be a need to update that fiscal note because I'm concerned. We just passed a bill through finance today that pushes folks to get their driver's license if they move here from out of state even faster. Now, if we have a higher penalty on folks who move here from out of state, one of the presumptions in that fiscal note was, which was much more thoroughly done, was that they will go out and get their driver's licenses much quicker, and that they'll get their car licensed here in the state of Colorado much quicker. And in a sense, that's a good thing, because that means that we're relying on the folks who are moving here to begin paying into the system. But at the same time, I think that it's probably going to change the fiscal note in this bill that we're looking at. Because if we have more people who live here, that means this fiscal note could understate the impact on the budget. And $3.9 million over the next 2 years to save $2 per person, per driver's license, seems like we may be underestimating what the cost of this idea might be.
Senator Colker.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have some answers for the people asking questions. Currently, the Department of Revenue estimates they have to raise driver's license fees 5% a year. With this bill, they will not raise 5% a year for this fiscal year and next fiscal year. So that's an estimate of about 2 million people renewing their license or getting a license. And that would apply immediately then to this fiscal year, next fiscal year, on a freeze on driver's license fees.
Thank you, Senator Colker. Excellent answers. Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry I was distracted. I'll yield the floor one more time to Senator Colker. I did not get to hear his answers. So if he wouldn't mind repeating that one more time.
Senator Colker.
Again, it's a freeze on the raising of the fees, that they would raise the fees by 5%. And so it's a freeze for this fiscal year and for next fiscal year.
Senator Liston.
Thank you. If Senator Colker is there, maybe he can answer my questions. I was curious how much driver's license fees are they now? Are they determined by age, or how long you've lived in Colorado, or are there different categories of driver's licenses? Would he know? Because I'm confused.
Senator Colker.
I'll have to get that information to you on thirds.
Thank you. Senator Liston.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a fascinating topic. It makes me think way back when I got my first driver's license. That was a long time ago. Let me think for a second. Well, I know I was 16, so that had to be about boy. That's are you trying to embarrass me? But I know when that was. I think it was about 1968, and I was really nervous, just like probably all teenagers. When you go in for your first driver's license, I took the test, and I'm pretty sure I passed it because I studied really hard. But then we had to do, I don't know, this is another question. Do you have to do a driving test today? I had to do a driving test. And I remember I had my little, I think it was a 1964 little German Opel Rekord. It was really a neat little car. It had a 4-speed, and it was on the column. Now I don't know how many of you have driven a 4-speed on the column, but it's very unique. I'm looking at Senator Sonnenberg because he's of my relative age. But it was a 4-speed on the column, but it was a German car. Okay, very good. It was a German car, very well engineered, and I remember it had a roof. What do I want to say? A moon roof, but it wasn't electric. You had to crank it yourself, and it had reclining bucket seats, which was very unusual. Like I say, it was a very well-engineered car. It was like a little miniature Mercedes. And I'm pretty sure I had that car when I did my driving test. And what else? Oh yeah, it had a very unique AM/FM stereo German radio, a Blaupunkt. For those of you who have been overseas, I think Blaupunkt at that time was considered the creme de la creme of radios, of car radios. Anyways, I got into this Opel Record with the 3-speed on the column, and the driving instructor was sitting next to me, and he would tell me, you know, that I had to go so fast and do a right turn and then a left turn and, you know, everything. I don't think we had to go on the highway though. Well, no, the reason I tell you all about this is that it makes me think of what we had to pay for our driver's license fees. And it seems like to me way back then, it was about, I'll say $10, which was a lot of money back in the late 60s. It was an awful lot of money. And I had to pay it myself too, by the way. And in those days, you had to go in and you had to, you know, it wasn't automated. There was no electronics and all the other stuff. There was no such thing as the internet. We had to take a number and we had to sit and wait for the driving instructor to, maybe Senator Gardner would remember if he had to do the same thing in the state of Texas or not. Not sure. But anyways, it was a very humbling experience, and I took the test, and they didn't tell you immediately whether you passed or not. You had to wait, and I think, like I say, this was a long time ago, you had to wait to get the results back in the mail, and you had to get your driver's license. You had to stand in line. You had to, if you thought you passed, you would have to get your picture taken. And I'm not so sure if that didn't cost you extra or not. And I can't remember if they fingerprinted us or not. But anyways, I've always wondered, so I'm really glad that the sponsor brought this bill, because I've always wondered about, you know, the fees that I paid for my driver's license, and I was wondering if maybe this fee could be retroactive for those of us that paid that immense amount of money way back then. So with that in mind, if my good colleague, I've tried to answer some of his questions. If anybody else would like to take over, I will be glad to yield the floor.
Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious if you could call the question.
The motion is to hear from Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 1004 is one of those bills that really kind of cuts to the heart of what state government is about. What is the appropriate role of the government in our state? You know, when I had a chance to, I didn't realize how widespread the problem was on driver's licenses cracking. I had the chance to speak with the good Senate docket clerk from Douglas County. For those of you who don't know what that title is, I can't say the gentleman's name. Over to my left, your right. He also has a driver's license that's cracked in the corner. And when we're dealing with the low quality low quality driver's licenses and have a chance to ask the department to do to improve their efforts, one of the things that I've learned is that when it comes to the Department of Motor Vehicles and Department of Revenue and how they run this office is you can't trust them. In many cases, they will overstep their bounds. They will begin to take advantage of the people of Colorado, and I think that's inappropriate. This bill talks about, if you look at Section 1, line 10, one of the words that it mentions in that line is it says, in order to avoid the department from increasing the driver's license fee by an additional $2 to maintain the existing level of service to Coloradans, the General Assembly finds it necessary to transfer $3,900,000 in funds from the general fund into the licensing services cash fund. Now, there's a couple of concerns that I have in this paragraph. Number one is, are we really satisfied that all we want them to do is maintain the existing level of service? Surely we could ask them to improve. It's not appropriate to simply ask the Driver's License Bureau to simply maintain their shoddy existing level of service to the state of Colorado. You know, there's some good folks who work in that department, and there's some that I've been to that do a pretty good job. But I've been to so many that don't. So part of my lack of trust is I don't believe that the bill sponsors appropriately put boundaries on them to make sure that they don't raise the fee for driver's licenses on their own. Currently, if you look up just one paragraph, the Department of Revenue has authority to raise or lower fees. This particular, what we're running here in this bill, we're going to give them $3.9 million, and we're saying that in order to avoid them raising them, but nowhere do we make sure that we put some guardrails around them to make sure that that they don't actually raise those fees beyond our expectation. So I would like to modify this bill to make sure that we have those handcuffs, if you will, on Department of Motor Vehicles to make sure that they don't raise rates beyond what they've already talked about.
There's an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L7?
Amendment L007, Senator Woodward, amend pre-engross bill, page 2, line 10, strike avoid and substitute prohibit.
Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if you look...
Please move the amendment.
Amendment L007.
To the amendment, Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. L007, as I started to talk about, changes one word, and it's because the people of Colorado need to trust the Department of Revenue. If we pass this bill, if we're going to put $3.9 million into the department, we need to make sure that they don't work around our system, that we haven't left them the right to raise or lower the driver's license fees. So the bill as written says avoid, in order to avoid them from raising the fees. This amendment's pretty clear. We're going to take it one step further, and we're going to say, in order to prohibit the department from raising the driver's license fees. So this will give me some comfort, and I think the people of Colorado will gain some comfort if we're going to put $3.9 million into the Department of Motor Vehicles. We need to make sure that they're not going to turn around and utilize their ability, their authority to raise and lower driver's license fees and just do an end around and just take the money and continue to offer the same existing level of service to the people of Colorado. So Amendment L007, I think, is a good amendment that really stands up for the people of Colorado and says, we expect you to, if we're going to give you this money, you may not raise rates at all for a period of 2 years.
Madam Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I urge a no vote on this amendment L007.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Chair. Well, we're not sure. Someone says, Mr. Chair. I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand why this amendment is even being resisted. at page 2, line 10, we're striking avoid and substitute prohibit. So it's almost an admission. The resistance to this amendment is an admission that the department would be free, while they would avoid it, they would be free to raise the driver's license fee. We're going to give them $3.9 million, and we're not going to say you cannot raise fees while you got the $3.9 million. Why resist that? Just because? I suppose we're in the time when everyone's going to vote the, opposite of what the folks across the aisle from them do, but this is a small change assuring the people of Colorado that if we're going to take that $3.9 million and give it to the Department of Revenue, to the driver's license cash fund, that we won't raise their fee. We won't raise their fee. That it's not just, we're going to try not to do that. We're going to stop them from doing it. I urge an aye vote to hold the Department of Revenue driver's license, the Department of Motor Vehicles, accountable. More to say on that when we get to the bill.
Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I rise in support of House Bill 1004, Amendment L007. I think this is a great amendment. Once again, it harkens back, makes me harken back to my days of the amount that I was paying for my driver's license fees. And if we would have had something like this in law way back when, that would have prohibited, not just avoid, but prohibited the ability of the Department of Revenue to raise driver's license fees, from when I was, way back when, $10, and I'm sure they ultimately went to maybe $15, and then I had to stand in line, the little coupon, and it was very frustrating. It was very humiliating that you had to stand in line and wait your line. There was no air conditioning either. It was tough. So I can really understand where the good senator is coming from. I might be laughing, but really I'm crying because those were tough days then. So with that in mind, I am concerned about the fiscal note because it was done way back in January the 25th. I can't even remember. I mean, that's over 100 days ago. So with that in mind, Mr. Chair, I would like to ask for a new fiscal note, and we have the necessary signatures, and just see how things have changed over the last 100 days. So with that, I have the form and request a new fiscal note.
We'll take a senatorial 5.
And we're back. Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I withdraw my motion for new fiscal note.
Motion for a new fiscal note is withdrawn. The question before us is the adoption of L007. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no.
No.
Ayes have it. That is adopted. Question before us is the adoption of House Bill 10004. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. 10004 is adopted. Will the clerk please read House Bill 11115 or 1115?
House Bill 1115, Representatives Kipp and Soper, Senators Pedersen and Hawkes Lewis, concerning the Prescription Drug Monitoring Program and in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Senator Hawkes Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1115 and the appropriations report.
Seeing no discussion of the Appropriations Committee report, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The report is adopted. Is there any further discussion of House Bill 1115? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1115. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That is adopted. Will the clerk please read 1119?
House Bill 1119, Representatives Gray and Weissman, Senator Winter, concerning civil liability for presenting false claims for payment to the state and in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the passage of House Bill 1119 and the Appropriations Committee report, the Finance Committee report, and the Judiciary Committee report.
To the Judiciary Committee report. Seeing no discussion of that report, the question before us is the adoption of the Judiciary Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Judiciary report is adopted. Seeing no discussion of the Finance Committee report. The question before us is the adoption of the Finance Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Finance Committee report is adopted. To the bill. Any discussion of House Bill 1119? Senator Lundeen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. It is a pleasure to be with you this evening talking about House Bill 221119, which was heard in the Judiciary Committee and came out on a party line vote. It establishes the Colorado False Claims Act. A person is liable to the state or a political subdivision of the state for a civil penalty if the person commits or conspires to commit or aids and abets the commission of any of the following: knowingly presenting or causing to be presented a false or fraudulent claim for payment or approval, knowingly making, using, or causing to be made or used a false record of statement, material to false or fraudulent claim, having possession, custody, or control of property or money used or to be used by the state or political subdivision, and knowingly delivering or causing to be delivered less than all the money or property, authorizing the making or delivery of documents. And I think there might be more expert concerns about this bill than what I can give you as I'm walking through the description of what this bill does. Mr. Chair, thank you for sharing with me that portion of the description of the False Claims Act. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion of 1119? Seeing none, Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, this bill has been subject to a very intensive stakeholder process, and I won't go into the details that a simple country lawyer couldn't even explain or understand himself. We appreciate the effort of the Attorney General's office to meet us sort of part way on this. I won't say who went halfway, but to meet in the middle. And many of the stakeholders have gone neutral. Others have become supportive of the bill. And with that, I do not oppose House Bill 1119, and we will have more to say about it on third reading when we have the attention of those in the chamber. For some reason, the attention spans this evening are rather short. So, as I say, there's no opposition to this bill from this quarter at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gardner. Seeing no further discussion of House Bill 1119, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1119. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. 1119 is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1122?
House Bill 1122, Representatives Will and Lindsay, Senator Hawkins Lewis, concerning prohibiting certain practices by entities obligated to pay for prescription drug benefits and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1122 lay over to the end of the calendar.
The motion is to lay over 1122 to the end of the calendar. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. 1122 will lay over. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1131?
House Bill 1131, Representatives Gonzalez, Gutierrez, and Bacon, Senator Gonzalez, concerning measures to reduce justice involvement for young children and in connection therewith focus on prevention and age-appropriate interventions and making an appropriation.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1131.
And the Appropriations Committee report?
And the Appropriations Committee report.
Seeing no discussion, the Appropriations Committee report. The question before us is the adoption of that report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Appropriations Committee report is adopted. Seeing no discussion of House Bill 1131, the question before us is the adoption of 1131. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. 1131 is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1221?
House Bill 1221, Representative Michelson Janae, Senator Fields, concerning the creation of the County Coroner Mortuary Mental Health and Wellness Program and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1221 on second reading and on second reading.
Second reading. Seeing no further discussion of House Bill 1221, the question before us is the adoption of the palindrome 1221. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The aye has it. 1221 is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1242?
House Bill 1242, Representatives Kipp and Exum, Senators Janal and Heisey, concerning the regulation of structures that are manufactured at a location that is not at the site where the structure is occupied and in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1242 and the accompanying appropriations report.
There are no Appropriations Committee's reports, but the bill, seeing no discussion of the excellent House Bill 1242, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1242. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. 1242 is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1254?
House Bill 1254, Representative Valdez A., Senators Winder and Priola, concerning regulation related to the ownership of a vehicle and in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1254 and the committee report on finance and appropriations.
There is no committee report. Lucky you. The
Okay.
question before us then, seeing no discussion, is the adoption of House Bill 1254. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. 1254 is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1315?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move House Bill 1315. There is no committee report.
Put it on a cow?
House Bill 1315, Representatives Snyder and Rich, Senators Hansen and Priola, concerning a statewide communication system referral to essential services and in connection therewith, requiring general fund appropriations to be made to the Department of Human Services for the issuance of annual grants to help fund the system and making an appropriation.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1315. There is no committee report. I ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion of House Bill 1315, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1315. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Clerk, please read the title to House Bill 1323.
House Bill 1323, Representatives Snyder and Froelich, Senators Rankin and Janal, concerning updates to the Colorado State Forest Service seedling tree nursery and in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Senator Janal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1323 and ask for an aye vote.
The question before the committee is the adoption of House Bill 1323. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1345?
House Bill 1345, Representatives Cutter and Bradville, Senators Gonzalez and Lee, concerning measures to increase protections from perfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl chemicals.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We move House Bill 1345 and the Finance Committee report.
Is there any discussion of the Finance Committee report?
No, sir.
Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Finance Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That report is adopted. Is there any discussion of House Bill 1345? Senator Heisey.
Just when we were on a roll. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill needs a little bit of attention. I'm going to use the phrase PFAS just because I pronounce it, but it refers to a whole family of pretty nasty man-made chemicals. And we see a PFAS bill regularly up here. I thought we were about done. But what this bill does is it bans PFAS over a phase-out period in many, many products that you would not think had PFAS in them. And like your kids' pajamas and, of course, your carpet and the chair you sit on and all those types of things. But what's really causing this, the impetus for this bill is we are finding PFAS at higher levels than we would expect in wastewater. And we don't have a good way to treat the wastewater, that volume of water at this stage of the game. And so we're looking to see how the PFAS is actually getting into the wastewater stream when we know the water going into the house, the drinking water, which is tested, is clean. So that's kind of why we have another PFAS bill up here. This bill has been a lot of stakeholder work, a lot of amendments in the House. It spent quite a long time in the House. So this is not a runaway bill. It is a bill with a purpose, and hopefully we can get a handle on some of these chemicals eventually. Urge an aye vote.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When we're talking about perfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl chemicals, we should recognize that they're not only found in the firefighting foam, they're also found in products like our cosmetics. So not only is this environmental justice, this is gender justice. I ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion of House Bill 1345, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. 1345 is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1346?
House Bill 1346, Representatives Duran and Mullica, Senator Danielson, concerning state requirements applicable to certain licensed construction professionals and in connection therewith, requiring the state electrical board and the state plumbing board to direct enforcement of state licensing and supervisor to apprentice ratio requirements and specifying who is authorized to apply for electrical and plumbing permits and making an appropriation.
Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1346 and the Appropriations Committee report.
Seeing no discussion of the Appropriations Committee report, the question before us is the adoption of that report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That report is adopted. Seeing no discussion of House Bill 1346, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1346. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1122? My bad. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1362?
House Bill 1362, Representatives Burnett and Valdez, Senators Hansen and Winter, concerning the reduction of building greenhouse gas emissions and in connection therewith, requiring the Colorado Energy Office to identify for adoption 3 model codes, requiring local governments and certain state agencies to adopt and enforce codes that are consistent with 2 of the model codes, encouraging local governments and certain state agencies to adopt and enforce codes that are consistent with the 3rd model code, creating the Building Electrification for Public Buildings Grant Program, creating the High Efficiency Electric Heating and Applications Grant Program, and establishing the Clean Air Building Investment Fund.
Senator Hansen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1362 on second reading and the SVMA committee report.
Seeing no discussion of the SVMA committee report, the question before us is the adoption of that report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That report is adopted. To the bill. Is there any discussion? Senator Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we heard this bill this late night this week in Senate Veteran Military Affairs. So it's a kind of an interesting bill associated with the International Energy Conservation Code. The bill was actually introduced and amended 31 times in the House, then brought over to the Senate and in committee then was introduced as a strike below. And then 6 amendments with the strike below. So quite a bit of conversation about trying to find a place how to make this work. Particularly for rural counties, it was an interesting conversation and perspective for me about rural Colorado, small counties. And for me, like, and the code only goes into effect when the county or an entity updates their existing code, so it doesn't happen immediately. But if I want to construct a potato cellar on my property in Alamosa County, do I become subject to the International Energy Conservation Code for my potato cellar? And the short answer is yes, but I was assured that the economics were there, that it would pay off to build my potato cellar to the code. And look, I would challenge that assertion that's really my determination to make. I can make those analyses and assumptions and decide if building it to code is really the economically justifiable position versus having the state tell me that it's absolutely going to be the economic best solution for me. So the other kind of challenge that really didn't get an answer that night was thinking about once the code entities are required to adopt and implement this code, what's the consequence of not adhering? What if you actually don't adopt the code and then don't enforce the code? And I'm not sure we're quite clear or came to real determination of what happens in that circumstance. So I had some real concerns and didn't vote for the bill in committee, but always open to conversation and always interested in how to be, particularly on my farm, more energy conscious. Went through a energy audit last year, 2 years ago on my farm. Put new high efficiency 50 horsepower motors on my well pumps and my sprinklers. New pump bowls, they're 20 years old. So I'm certainly interested in trying to improve energy efficiency on my operation. So happy to have more conversation.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and members. My good colleague from the San Luis Valley brings up some excellent points for us in rural Colorado that don't understand how that will impact us for barns, shops, steel buildings that we use that are typically not energy efficient. When I say not energy efficient, we're talking about tin up on the side with tin doors. If we have electricity in those buildings, which we always do for lights and other things, would they be required to meet those same standards? And it appears that they would. It appears that those standards would double or triple. Let me say that again. Double or triple the cost of putting up a steel building. For example, an 80 by 200 steel building, 15 foot high, 16 foot high, like I have on my farm, if you were to insulate that, it would take, well, let me start. The cost of the building, just the materials, is about $100 grand. The insulation, to insulate that amount of square feet, is another $100 grand. That means if I have to meet these standards with my shop that I park equipment in, all of a sudden you've doubled the price. That doesn't seem reasonable to me. And that's why an amendment is flying down from the sky. And landing on the chairman's
There is
desk.
an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L065?
Amendment
Senator
L065.
Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L065.
The amendment.
Members, we have a situation in which there are some that won't be able to get the grants. There's not going to be enough grant money, I would anticipate, to meet all of these needs. So what this amendment does is says, look, if you're in a county of 200 people or less, I'm sorry, 200,000 people or less, and you apply for a grant and you don't get the grant, you don't need to comply to these standards. And the reason I chose 200,000 is because most all of those counties have rural farms in them. For example, Pueblo at 171,000, Mesa at 157,000, Broomfield is 73,000, Garfield County 61,000, La Plata 56,000, Eagle just edged out by La Plata at 55,007, Fremont 47,000, Montrose 44,000, Delta 31,000, Summit 31,000, Morgan 29,000, Elbert 28, Montezuma 26, Teller 26, Route 26, Logan 22, Chaffee 21, Park 19, Gunnison 18, Otero 18, Pitkin 17, Grand County 16, Alamosa 16, Archuleta 14, Los Animas 14, Moffett 13, Prowers 12, Rio Grande 11, Yuma 10, Clear Creek 9, Lake County 8, Caneos 8, San Miguel 8, Horfano 7, Kit Carson 7, Saguache 6, Gilpin 6,000, Crowley 6,000, Rio Blanco 6,000, Lincoln 6,000. I don't need to tell you all the way down to San Juan at 620 people. Do we really think that when it comes down to handing out these grants, that many of these smaller counties will be able to get those grants? There is not enough money in the world to do just the ag property, just the steel buildings, the shops, the barns, the milking parlors. So what I'm asking you to do is say, look, not to avoid these policies, not to avoid these plans or these requirements, but if you apply for a grant, and if there's enough money for a grant, good. This amendment doesn't happen then. We put the amendment in, it doesn't matter. But if you apply for the grant and you don't get it, you don't have to fork out the money to meet the requirements. Ask for your aye vote for L65.
Senator Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in support of L65. Thinking again how challenging it can be in small rural counties to have somebody to actually write the grant is awful problematic. Trying to compete with big counties with big staffs that have probably staffs of full-time grant writers. We struggle to find somebody on a temporary basis to come in and scratch together a grant, and routinely it's a difficult opportunity, or it's a difficult challenge for us to compete with those bigger entities. And this is an important step and a heavy lift for rural counties on top of all the other mandates that we've shifted upon them. So I stand in strong support of Amendment L65.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would encourage a no vote. At this population level, only 9 counties would be left. That's a significant portion of Colorado that's left out. And I also want to remind everyone, the bill's written in a way that the counties are in the driver's seat. So if they apply for a grant, don't get a grant, they don't have to adopt these codes. They only have to adopt these codes if and when they update their codes. Some of these small counties don't even have codes. That means they don't have to adopt these codes. So it's only if and when. So the counties are already in the driver's seat. The counties are already making the decisions. The counties are already in charge of if and when they adopt codes. And I encourage a no vote because having only 9 counties in this is not how we move our state forward.
Seeing no further discussion of L065, the question before us is Senator Sonnenberg.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm happy to run another amendment with a different number. Perhaps we can have that discussion on if there is a number that might work. I'm happy to have that conversation, whether it's 100. I have an amendment here for 100. We have, I could do 75. I understand, and absolutely, when you have large counties, I was looking at trying to get to the ag counties, the counties that will have steel buildings that, quite frankly, aren't necessarily warehouses or places like that that can afford to meet those standards and those codes that are similar to my farm. I guess we'll go ahead and vote on L65, and I do have another amendment, or if you'd like to have that conversation, I'm more than happy to have that conversation. Ask for an aye on L67.
Senator Winter.
No,
I mean 65, sorry.
Take a quick senatorial 5. Seeing no further discussion of L065, the question before us is the adoption of L065. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. Noes have it. That amendment is lost. Well, so sorry, sir. Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
There's an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L066?
Amendment L066.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L066.
Seeing no discussion, the question before us is the adoption of L066. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That amendment is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that House Bill 1362 lay over 2 bills.
The motion is for House Bill 1362 to lay over until after House Bill 1377. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill will lay over. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1370?
House Bill 1370, Representatives Judah and Sirota, Senators Winter and Buckner, concerning coverage requirements for healthcare products and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Buckner.
Yes. We move House Bill 22-1370, second reading.
And the SVMA report and the Appropriations Committee report?
Yes, and those two.
Excellent. To the SVMA report. Seeing no discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the SVMA report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That report is adopted. Seeing no discussion of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That report is adopted. Is there any further discussion of House Bill 1370? Seeing Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. 1370, coverage requirements for health care products themselves. Purpose of this bill is to shield consumers from the financial implications of the choices they make in receiving health care services. Do the sponsors actually agree with that? Seems pretty interesting. And pharmaceutical products. To achieve that goal, this bill implements a number of problematic restrictions on health benefit plans. First, it would require certain percentages of health plans to exclude important cost-sharing mechanisms, namely coinsurance and deductibles, in favor of a variety of co-payment-only structures. Secondly, the bill would place arbitrary restrictions, and this bill has been amended multiple times. And I think I'm at the end of the time space that I needed to fill here. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Is there any further discussion of House Bill 1370? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1370. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1377?
House Bill 1377, Representatives Woodrow and Exum, Senators Colker and Gonzalez, concerning the creation of the Connecting Coloradans Experiencing Homelessness with Services, Recovery Care, and Housing Supports Grant Program, and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1377 on special order, second reading of bills.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1377. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1362? Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1362 to follow House Bill 1259.
The motion is to lay over House Bill 1362 to follow House Bill 1259. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill will lay over. Can't vote both ways. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1385?
House Bill 1385, Representative Titone, Senator Hansen, concerning the implementation of the Colorado Operations Resource Engine Upgrade Project.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that House Bill 1385 lay over to follow House Bill 1362.
The motion is to do a double layover and to move 1385 to follow House Bill 1362. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill will be the double layover. Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1392?
House Bill 1392, Representatives Byrd and Lindsay, Senator Moreno, concerning the extension of state tax incentives affecting the use of real property to promote community development, and in connection therewith, extending the contaminated land, state income tax credit, and property tax exemption for affordable housing projects, and making an appropriation.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1392 and the Appropriations Committee report.
To the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Appropriations Committee simply added the appropriation to the bill. I ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That report is adopted. Seeing no further discussion of House Bill 1392, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1392. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. The clerk please read the title to House Bill 1259.
House Bill 1259, Representatives Duran and Judith, Senator Moreno, concerning modifications to the Colorado Works Program, and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1259 and the Finance and Appropriations Committee reports.
To the Finance Committee report, any discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Finance Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That report is adopted. Seeing no discussion of the Appropriations Committee report, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That report is adopted. Will the clerk please read the? Sorry, I'm moving way ahead of myself here. Is there any discussion of House Bill 1259? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1259. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1362 again?
House Bill
Mr.
1362,
Majority
Representatives Burnett and Valdez, Senators Hansen and Winter, concerning the reduction of building greenhouse gas emissions and in connection therewith requiring the Colorado Energy Office to identify for adoption 3 model codes requiring local governments and certain state agencies to adopt and enforce codes that are consistent with 2 of the model codes, encouraging local governments and certain state agencies to adopt and enforce codes that are consistent with the 3rd model code, creating the Building Electrification for Public Buildings Grant Program, creating the High Efficiency Electric Heating and Appliances Grant Program, and establishing the Clean Air Build Investment Fund.
I'm so sorry to have you read that again, Ms. Cole. Mr. Majority Leader?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and apologies, Ms. Cole. You will have to read it one more time. I move to lay over House Bill 1362, one bill.
The motion is to lay over House Bill 1362, one bill, to be the other half of the double layover. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill will lay over. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1385?
House Bill 1385, Representative Titone, Senator Hansen, concerning the implementation of the Colorado Operations Resource Engine Upgrade Project.
Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the passage of 1385 on second reading.
Seeing no further discussion of House Bill 1385, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1385. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to House... I'm not going to ask you to read this unless we're actually ready to do it. So, Ms. Cole, just take a breather. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to proceed out of order for the consideration of House Bill 1122.
The motion is to proceed out of order to consider House Bill 1122. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. 1122 is up.
Go ahead.
Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1122?
House Bill 1122, Representatives Will and Lindsay, Senator Hawkes Lewis, concerning prohibiting certain practices by entities obligated to pay for prescription drug benefits and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Hawkes Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1122 and the accompanying Health and Human Services report.
And the Appropriations Committee report?
Move to reject.
Mr. Chair, I move to reject the Appropriations Committee report.
First to the Health and Human Services Committee report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Health and Human Services Committee report. All those in favor of the report? Senator Sonnenberg.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And now that we're going to reject, I know, but she tipped her hand to say that she is going to ask to reject the Appropriations Committee report. Why would you do that?
We'd be happy to explain.
Yeah, give me a second.
Be happy? Well, if we're going to do that, I want to reject the Health and Human Services Committee report. Go back to the version it was in the House. But I will yield to you to explain. Actually, I do.
Shall we adopt the Health and Human Services report and then speak to the Appropriations Committee report? Sounds great. Seeing no further discussion of the Health and Human Services Committee report, question before us is the adoption of that report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those no. Ayes have it. The Health and Human Services Committee report is adopted. To the Appropriations Committee report, Senator Hawkes Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Of all the bills for this to occur on, we had a transcription error. So the appropriations language from 1115 was transposed onto 1122, and that's why I need to reject the appropriations report.
And Senator Hawkes Lewis, will there be a corrected amendment coming later on? Senator Hansen.
Thank you. I think we were missing the motion there. So I move to reject the Appropriations Committee report.
Yep.
Well, or we just... The question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Noes have it. That report is not adopted.
34 to 1.
To the bill, Senator Hansen. I have a feeling there's some sort of J amendment type thing coming to the desk. And indeed there is. Will the clerk please read the title to Amendment L02, or just read L024.
Amendment L024, Senator
Senator
Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L24 to House Bill 1122.
The question before us is the adoption of Senator Hansen.
All right. Sorry, Mr. Chair. I just think this is worth 30 seconds of explanation.
Great.
So just to make it very clear to everyone, there was an error with the information that got put into the 1122 Appropriations Committee report. That's why we rejected it. This amendment, L24, repeats what we did in the Appropriations Committee. So we are back to the same spot that we left appropriations. If we accept L24, I confirm that with our drafter. Please support L24.
Is there any further discussion of L024? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L024. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That amendment is adopted. To the bill. Seeing no further discussion? All right. We'll take a senatorial 5.
That's right.
And we're back. Senator Smallwood, to the bill.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, colleagues. I know the hour is getting late here, but I just want to make sure that everybody in the body realizes the change that was made and how important it is that those changes remain, because obviously this process isn't ideal, right? Everything that we do here in the Senate, if we make changes, has to go back to the House, and we get another bite at the apple here. So I very much appreciate what the sponsor has agreed to, what the committee did, because it, quite honestly, it changes the bill fundamentally. We had a long discussion in committee about Section 1 versus Section 2. And I don't think there was anything malicious. I don't think there's anything insidious going on, but there were a lot of misunderstandings in committee as to the relationship between Section 1 and Section 2 in the bill. We heard in committee that perhaps these two were intertwined somehow, and that you couldn't have one without the other. So we brought the drafter in, and she did a fantastic job explaining that Section 1 and Section 2, at least as I interpret it, have absolutely nothing to do with each other. But Section 2 is dealing with the part of Title 10, Part 15, that's dealing with the 340B prescription drug program, which is something that people like me support, right? It does really good things for folks in our communities that really need help acquiring expensive, sometimes, often expensive prescription drugs, versus 10-16-122.1, which has nothing, in my opinion, and according to what I understood from the drafter, nothing to do with the 340B prescription program. 10-16-122.1 is regarding contracts between PBMs and pharmacies. Whether it has any, whether those pharmacies are dealing with 340B program or not. And the concern that folks like myself had, and I don't think I was alone in this, is that if we require PBMs, or I use the term loosely, or insurance companies, because the two seem to be almost synonymous by and large nowadays, if we're going to require these PBMs to pay more money for prescription drugs to anybody, it is not in my opinion, the PBM that pays the price for that. If the PBM is paying, or the insurance company is paying more money for prescription drugs, they don't take a hit on that. They pass that along to the consumer via higher premiums. So, as we've seen this bill change from PBMs not being part of the conversation, pharmacies not being part of the conversation, to only small rural pharmacies being part of the conversation, to now everybody in smaller counties being part of the conversation, the price tag continues to grow and grow and grow. So, I am very, very, very much in support of what was done in the Appropriations Committee. And all I'm asking the body to do is to help me make sure that this stays. That's what I'm asking for. We cannot control what the House of Representatives does. The members there were elected by their constituents. In my opinion, they're accountable only to their constituents. But right now, I feel much, much better about this bill. If this were to change again, it's going to change my opinion dramatically. And it keeps changing. So I believe that we have commitments from the folks that are sort of controlling this process, that this bill is not going to change for the 6th time materially. And as long as it doesn't, then hopefully I can disappear into a desk over there on the corner, and we will wait and see what happens. But at this point, it's not a bill that I can really support, but would definitely feel much stronger about the bill the way it is right now. And so asking you to help me make sure that we don't see changes number 6 through 11 on this. Thank you, colleagues.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1122. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, that bill is adopted. We'll take a senatorial 5. Will the clerk please read the title one last time to House Bill 1362?
House Bill 1362, Representatives Burnett and Valdez A. Hansen and Senators Hansen and Winter, concerning the reduction of building greenhouse gas emissions and in connection therewith requiring the Colorado Energy Office to identify for adoption 3 model codes requiring local governments and certain state agencies to adopt and enforce codes that are consistent with 2 of the model codes, encouraging local governments and certain state agencies to adopt and enforce codes that are consistent with the 3rd model code, creating the Building Electrification for Public Buildings Grant Program, creating the High Efficiency Electric Heating and Appliance Grant Program, and establishing the Clean Air in Building Investment Fund.
You know, everything after the and is superfluous. Why is the title so long? Senator Winter. This is torture. Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1362.
To remove all doubt.
Good. And there is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L069?
Amendment L069.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L069.
To the amendment.
Thank you. I want to thank my colleagues. I want to thank the counties. I want to thank our stakeholders for working this out in the hall. We are making sure that we are helping our most rural counties. We are taking it to a population of 30,000. We also added some qualifiers around the grant amount. So it has to be a meaningful amount. It can't be $5. But also, if you don't get your full amount requested, you still need to do this, and in unincorporated areas. And I think this is a good agreement to incentivize rural areas and give them the support they need, and I encourage a yes vote.
Senator Simpson.
Quickly, just thank you, Mr. Chair. Likewise, appreciate the dialogue and the opportunity to engage and get this to a much better spot for, again, my rural counties that routinely struggle to get grants to help them with this kind of effort. So appreciate all the dialogue, and we're in a good spot. I'm supportive of L69.
Always beautiful to see folks coming together here in the waning days of session. Is there any further discussion of House Bill L069? Although seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L069. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes overwhelmingly have it, and that amendment is adopted. Seeing no further discussion of House Bill 1362, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1362. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar until Monday, May 9th.
Oh, the motion is to lay over the balance of the calendar until Monday. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. We are going home. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
Motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. We will rise and report.
I already have it.
No. If you have a cow, you should give it to Cindy.
The Senate will come to order.
Not the House. Have some dignity.
Let's just roll.
The coat rule is no longer relaxed. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had quite a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 239 is amended, passed on second reading, and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1004, House Bill 1115 is amended, House Bill 1119 is amended, House Bill 1131 is amended, House Bill 1221, 1242, 1254, 1315, 1323, 1345 is amended, 1346 is amended, 1370 is amended, 1377, 1392 is amended, 1359 is amended, 1385, 1122 as amended, 1362 as amended, pass on second reading in order to revise and place on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bills 1400 and 1355 laid over until May 9th, 2022, and retaining their place on the calendar.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
Motion is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read Cow Amendment 1?
Cow Amendment 001 to House Bill 1004.
Senator Fields.
Mr. President, I move Cal Amendment 001 to House Bill 1004.
To the amendment.
Members, what this Cal Amendment does, it shows that the Woodward floor amendment L007 to House Bill 1004 did not pass.
Is there any discussion? Question before the body is the adoption of Amendment Cow 001 to the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent to excuse, Cow Amendment 1 is passed. Question before the body is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent to excuse, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 239 is amended, passed on second reading in order and engrossed, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bills 1004, 1115 is amended, 1119 is amended, 1131 is amended, 1221, 1242, 1254, 1315, 1323, 1345 is amended, 1346 is amended, 1370 is amended, 1377, 1392 is amended, 1259 is amended, 1385, 1122 is amended, 1362 is amended. Passed on second reading in order, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1400 and 1355 laid over until May 9th, 2022, and retaining their place on the calendar. Members, we have one last thing to do.
No, don't do that.
First and foremost, our very own Senator Winter's birthday is tomorrow. We also want to wish everybody a happy birthday that had a birthday when we were not in session. And so that is Senator Hansen, Rodriguez, Coleman, Heisey, Liston, Bridges, Janal, Fields, Kirkmeyer, Lundeen, Cook, Lee, Priola, Donovan, Rankin, Danielson, Simpson, Pedersen, Zenzinger, and myself, and Gardner, and Henriksen, and Corum, and Sonnenberg, which I think is all of you. Let's get the choir to sing before we get out of here. Announcements. Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of Senate Appropriations, I have wonderful news to share. That's right, in 15 minutes. No meeting on Monday morning. No meeting on Monday morning. We will have an approps upon adjournment to continue our work, but sleep in on Monday morning.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Friends, if you would slide your files over to your desk to send a clear message that you don't need the assignables to do any extra work tonight. Thanks, colleagues.
Or you just go digital and not worry about it.
Further announcements. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate adjourn until Monday, May 9th at 10 a.m.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will adjourn until Monday, May 9th at 10 a.m.